to Venice, the car park is here, and you can just walk kind of across the street. You go down a few steps, and the lagoon, is there, everything. So the hotel we were going to stay at was right about two blocks, maybe three from where we were. So, but first time in Venice, and we just got married, so we're going to ride the gondola to the hotel. So we get in the gondola, and of course the lapping of the waves and all. She got scared, and she
now walked to the hotel.
She got scared and wouldn't stay. So we had to get out of the gondola and back on the street. The guy with the gondola, he rode the suitcases to the hotel, and we walked.
We paid for
But I still had to pay him just to carry the suitcases. She was scared. But then like she said, she didn't have one dress with her at the time, and so for 3 days we walked around and we had a ball.
Uniform and I had a dress.
I had my uniform. She had a dress.
How much money we had?
And oh gosh, yeah, we ate little sardellis, they call them, little sardines. They fry them in deep oil.
Salty.
They're salt, but God, they're good.
And coconut.
And coconuts. Well, we ate more coconuts.
But we had a good time.
But we had a ball. We really did, and we came back.
That's why we like to go to Venice.
And we came back, and of course they had put salt in the bed, which is a good old-fashioned Italian.
A friend of mine,
Yeah.
We lived with my mother. We were looking for, but like I said, he wasn't making that much money. And then we would have to share with a couple of family in one apartment.
That was
the same kitchen. You only get a room.
But that was the reason that stopped people from marrying
until they
got ready to come home, because there just wasn't any place to live. I mean, people that had 1 or 2 bedrooms in the house, they were renting each one to a different family. So you might have 3 or 4 families, living in 2 bedrooms, everybody using the same bath.
Well, we only had a bedroom at home.
Yeah, the lucky thing was that her mother let her, after we couldn't find a place, and we finally found it, and we told her that where we were going. She said, no. I said,
stay here.
You could stay in Yolanda, just take Yolanda's room. So Yolanda and I stayed in her room. Right across the hall was her older sister and her husband. And then had a smaller bedroom, and there her 2 brothers slept. And then the front bedroom, her mother and father and her 1 sister. So actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
It was still crowded.
Yeah, there was 9 of us in this one 3-bedroom apartment. But we got along fine. Her mother loved to cook, and she was a great cook. Although she cooked too. She cooked.
No, I didn't. I never cook at home because my job was to do the washing and cleaning, and so everybody had something to do.
But
when we grew up.
Oh no.
So I never learned how to cook. When we came here, his mother cooked because I lived with her. So when we went to Washington, when we got our own apartment. It was our anniversary, I forgot how many years. And I fixed chicken noodle soup out of the boxes. That's what we had for supper.
Chicken noodle soup. But we had fun. Staying with her mother was a good idea there. Staying with my mother here wasn't. It just didn't work out good. Only boy and married to a foreigner and Catholic too. And she was always trying to change her daughter to her daughter Annie, who was baptized and everything. And my mother was always taking her with her to the Baptist church, and she played the piano at the Baptist church. So she would take her to the Baptist church and sit on the piano next to her, always trying to convert her, and I said, no, you're not going to do that. And so she never did. The first thing is that, I was naive enough to believe the Army. And in 1949, because I joined in 46, so 49 was my 3 years that I had joined up with. So I went to find out, what to do, and they said, well, if you re-enlist here, the Army had this big deal on, re-enlisting. re-enlist and take 60 days or 30 days leave in the States, you can come back to Trieste and start a new
3 years.
3 years, stay 3 more years. And I believed them, like 2 or 3 other guys that were with me. So I believed them. And this was 1950, and so I did. I re-enlisted. I came home by myself, and we got off in Fort Dix, New Jersey. And the first morning we were there, we fell out, and they came out and said, "I'm sorry, but you guys came here for 90 days and 30 days leave." He said, "All your leaves are canceled except for 1 week." Said, "You're all going to Korea," because Korea had just started actually at that time. And so we was then, what the hell, we didn't, wasn't anything we could do. But the next morning we had a formation, and they called us and they said, everybody except the YY people, and we didn't know what that meant, but at the time what it meant was re-enlistees. Those who had re-enlisted and been promised that they would get the full 30 days leave and go back. And so we did. I took my leave. I went back to.
But you stayed more than 30
days.
days.
Yeah. It took a long time to get back, and I went back to Fort Dix, and later on I was shipped back to Trieste. But then, instead of keeping the promise and letting me stay 3 years, in 1952, I got orders that I was coming back to the States.
You only stayed there for a couple of years.
Yeah, a couple of years after that. They were cleaning it out. What they were getting ready to do was to turn Italy back to Trieste, to the Italians, but they hadn't told us that. But they were bringing soldiers in. See, Trieste, there was never any black soldiers at all. There was nothing but white Americans in Trieste, no black troops. And somebody said it was Mark Clark did it because Mark Clark made a statement one time that the Germans weren't beating him in Rome and in and around Rome in the battles. He said it was a venereal disease from the black troops that happened to take so much time to cure them, because at that time venereal disease was you had to stay 12 days in the hospital taking sulfur, every 4 hours or so, and then it was about 30 days before. So he actually made that statement, and this was again during the war, and nobody did anything to him. So for somehow the Italians decided they didn't want black troops in Trieste, so there were none. Late '52, they started coming from Germany. They started shipping them in from Germany, and they started shipping all of the troops that had been there 2 or 3 years, like I had 4 actually. They started shipping us home. So we came home, and the Army has different years. They fill up different bases in the United States from Europe. In other words, the year that I came home in 1952, everybody that shipped out of Italy at that time went into Fort Myer, Virginia. That's where they were filling up at that time. The next time I went to Germany. When I shipped back, they were filling up Fort Sill, Oklahoma, and that's where we ended up. So we came back to Fort Myer, and that's where we stayed for 7 more years.
I was home with the baby.
Yeah.
Annie was still little. In fact, she had the chicken pox.
Yeah.
Because she was full of bump, and of course she didn't recognize him. She didn't know who he was.
But I was picked up at the dock at the ship by my company, then taken straight back to the barracks that I lived in up the street, and I just dropped off my bags and walked right down the street home, and that was in 52.
Yeah.
Then when we came back.
I was worried, because if he went to Korea or something happened, I'm there
by yourself
with the baby, and in fact, people thought that he had left me. So a lot of time, somebody would say, "Oh, he's he's
never coming back."
Yeah,
but like I say, we would, as far as the Army was concerned, you know, I really expected to end up in Korea when it came back, and then to turn around, I ended up back there.
The same thing happened when you were in Oklahoma.
Yeah.
The Vietnam War started, and they would always give the stripe to somebody else, and he was doing a good job. But one day they called him in the office, said, "If you re-enlist, we'll give you a stripe." And I told him, I said, "You know what? They can put the stripe." I said, "You're going to retire because you are not going to Vietnam." I had 4 kids.
Yeah.
What will I do with 4? You know.
I already had 20 years, and I'd already told him that I was going to retire.
He's always regret that. I said, "For why?" I said, "Why should you go over there when we didn't have no business being there in the first place?" Yeah. So he retired, and it was kind of hard to get used to a civilian life, especially for me. He got a job, you know, but for me, of course, we lived with his mother again for a few months until we moved here. Yeah, and it was kind of hard with 4 kids, 2-bedroom, you know. But what else can we do? I mean,
well, like I said, I was fortunate.
Work for the post
I always did. Like I had told you when my father never worked, and I always had this thought that I had to take care of my family. That was in my mind the greatest thing in the world was I'm the father. I take care of mine.
Well, you did.
And I know, and I'm still that way, even with everybody. So whenever I went to a new place, I bucked into the job immediately, and I really worked hard. Everywhere I went, every time I got a new assignment, the first thing, like I told Brandon one time, I think, learn the guy's job ahead of you, because someday he might leave, and be ready to step into it if it's open. We were at Fort Sill, and I'd already gone in and told the colonel that I was going to retire when my 20 years was up, and so I had already started training my replacement, and they called me into the office. This guy called me into the office and said, "John, says you if you don't retire, so we got orders for you to go to Vietnam." And I looked at him like, I said, "You're going to give me a choice to retire, what I was going to do anyway. I go somewhere and get my ass shot off, And that was about what he was saying. I said, "No, ma'am." I said, "My wife said that we are going home." And I already had a job in Ohio. My brother-in-law ran a carpet business, and he had me a job and everything. So, so I just took my retirement. We left. We came here, and I had decided that if I didn't find something that I really wanted, the thing in Ohio didn't work out. At first place, my children hated Ohio because it was so big and everything. They just didn't like it at all. So we had decided not to go there, but we thought we'd go back to Fort Hood, Texas. And
they liked it over here.
Because they liked it here. It's smaller, yeah.
Oklahoma, it's not like Virginia.
But we came here, and I started looking for a job, and I went to the police department, the fire department, and I was too old, 37 at the time, and the police cut off at 35. And I went to McLean Truck, I think it was at the time, and asked them. And the guy said no, but he said, and we got to talking, and I told him I just got out the Army. He said, "When?" And I told him a month ago. He said, not even a month, about 2 weeks. He said, "Go to the post office and just tell them that you just got discharged. You want to take the test. Then they have to give it to you. It's law, by the federal." So I did, and they said, "Well, you're lucky." I went up on a Monday. Said, "We're giving it Wednesday." And so I went Wednesday, and I took the test, and I came home, and, we still packing. We were going back, and Friday.
Saturday, I was
yeah, she was on. And I got a letter from the post office, said you've passed, you're in the top 3 of them, said report Monday for an interview.
We were gonna
we were going to leave Monday. So I went back. I went to the post office on Monday. There was 3 of us, the top 3. The one guy had just taken a job with B&W. They were hiring. So there was 2 of us left, and John Ripley was the postmaster. And he talked to both of us, and he came out and he said, they told me to hire one and said, I'm just going to hire both of you. So they hired me right there. And, I went to work. God, it was hard because they have what they call a scheme, which is every street and every house in Lynchburg has a little card. And you have to learn all of them, over 2,000 of them darn things. And you have to learn which carrier carries each one, because each carrier has a route. Like Greenwood, Oakdale, and Golf Park is on a route called 206. And so you had to know, and she and I stayed up sometimes until 2 and 3 o'clock in the morning, and she would help me. She would call them out, and I would train. And I finally passed it when I had to put it up. Never thought I would, but I did, and I stayed there 23 years, and never failed one after that. And just once you learn it, when they add a new street,
that was destiny.
Oh gosh, yeah. Oh, I know it was. Yeah.
We were ready to go.
Oh yeah, we were leaving.
We were leaving Monday, and Saturday the letter.
Saturday the letter came, but I stayed there, for the 23. So it was 23 years, and plus the 20 in the Army, and federal guidelines at the time were that you can't retire with over 43 years. That's it. No matter how many more years you stay, you don't get any more. So I had my 43. I just put in for it. I was working midnight shift. I went to work at 11, got off at 7 in the morning. She was sitting right there in that chair, and I came out, and I just had gotten so disgusted with what was going on, over there. They had people that were drawing money for doing nothing. They were just a lazy bunch of people. And I came out, and I was always supervisor or something over there. They had floor supervisors, machine supervisors, and of course, like I said before, I always knew the guy above me's job. So every time one of them were on vacation or had a day off or something, I had to fill in for them. I did fill in for them. And I'd been working with these people, and they were just so sorry, And I had gotten really gotten huffy at one, and she had turned me into the postmaster. And they called me in and told me that I would have to go down and apologize. And I looked him square in the eyes, and I told him, I said, that is the laziest damn woman there ever was. And I said, she's making my money, and I will not apologize. I said, put my paper. So I came and I asked her, I said, do you mind if I retire? And she said, no, if you think we can make it, let's do it. So I went to him, forget it. And I did. I didn't apologize. I did go back one time and told her that, what did she, she told him that I shook my finger in her face. And I was as far from here to the wall from her when I walked around, and told her, you belong over there where your work is, So later on, just before I left, I said, if my finger, assaulted you in any way, I'm sorry. That was the only thing. But really, you just get to a point. Sometimes I think when you work hard, and like I said, to me, family was it, because Daddy couldn't really take care of us, and I was, absolutely positive that I was going to take care, of everybody, that the way they should be taken care of. And it wasn't his fault. I mean, he was wounded, and he tried.
And it was hard, when I had my first one, I lived at home with my mother, and she always helped me a lot because he wasn't there, So I had help. But then when we moved here, his mother worked, and his mother 2 months after I got here. So that was also hard because I didn't have the help I had with my first one. But I made it. I mean, I was happy, you know, to have these kids, and I took care of them. I never worked. I stayed home with them, and I was always there. You know, if we went somewhere, we make sure that we came home before they got home from school. The packing is, you know, you have to do all that yourself to come and get your belonging, big stuff that we had over there, but the rest was up to us. And I don't know, it was just hustle and bustle, you know, things to do.
I think what she's trying to say, the hardest part of it, of course, was driving from here to Oklahoma. You know, I picked up the car in New York.
No, that wasn't that bad. I think that the worst part of it was in the airplane, and I had my youngest daughter that kept crying all the time, and this one over here, almost bitter, because she wouldn't shut up. That wasn't the, you know, I said, you don't really do that, you didn't do that, did you? And he was so bad because she kept crying, you know, and then stewards come and say, what's wrong with her? Oh, nothing, she's just fussy, but I wanted to tell her to be bitter. So it's a big experience. The rest of it, I was used to. I mean, when it comes to parking, I'm ready. You know, going trip, that wasn't, for me, wasn't bad. And everything went smooth. That was bad because when we left Oklahoma, we lived in quarters. And we had a big...
We had a 4-bedroom house.
And then coming here again and, you know, living with 4 kids in a small house over his mother, that was the... But, I mean, other than that, I just, you know, trying to find a place so we can move and start a life because we didn't have one.
Moving from... The transition, of course, for me, at first
we didn't have to worry about. All I had to do is pack a suitcase.
Yeah,
I mean,
but I had about 60 people, you know, working under me, and I was responsible for all 60 of them. You know, they're my responsibility. If you're a platoon sergeant, you have a platoon. Every man in that is you're responsible for. He goes out and gets drunk and gets in trouble, you know, you got to go get him, and you got to answer for him. So getting out of that and coming here, and not having that same responsibility was good. You know, I mean, if the people at the post office, if they didn't do the work, the hell with them. You know, it didn't bother me because I wasn't. You know, I didn't have that responsibility.
No,
so,
and it was different for you because
yeah, of course it was.
For me, it's making new friends. You know.
Yeah, and I didn't care.
That was the worst part because I used to. In Arlington, we lived on the 3rd floor, and I used to see all the girls sitting down and talking to each other. You know, and I didn't know anybody, so I felt like I was really alone. I had the kids, but you didn't have your friend that you made in Oklahoma. So every time you move, for me, was an experience, yeah.
But
for him, no, because he went to work.
Yeah, well, yeah. The military is so different that
but once you know everybody, then they were crying when we left. You know, everybody was sad that we went to Germany.
Yeah.
Right. So,
but Germany wasn't bad. But the Army is so different because everybody moves every 2 or 3 years, you know, usually. Why?
A nag.
I've just loved her ever since I first saw her, and what else can I say? You know, she walked in, and I looked at her and told the guy, I said, well, I'm going to marry her, and I did, and we've been together now for 65 years, and we've been married 63, but we've been together 65.
We know each other.
Okay. So, you know, we've been through hard times and bad times. We lost a son, and that was really a bad time, real bad time. Still is, there's no question. It'll never be any different. And we go through different things. And, you know, you have children, and you do the very best you can with raising them, you know, and the one thing that you have to, for me anyway, is family. And no matter what they do, they're still yours, and you stay with them. Then we had 9 grandchildren, and now we got 6, you know, great grandchildren, and all of them are just as close to me as my 3 daughters. And all of the grandchildren and children are the same. I don't think anybody ever said she did. She never said it.
I didn't at first, and then it came, you know, all of a sudden, and just knew I love him, and we've been together, like you said, all these years. I mean, we were separate, you know, for a while because he had to go back to the States, and then, like in Germany, he was going almost all winter. They would go, you know, maneuver.
Czechoslovakian border most of the time, freezing to death.
Then he went to Berlin for 4 months, and I was left with the 4 kids there, and I didn't drive. So, you know, but he was always there for us, a good father, a good husband. Everybody likes him. And there's not one person except a black lady or whatever she was. She didn't like him. But the grandchildren loves him, right, Brandon?
He sleep. But we
no.